because it's time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. We are here with another installment of the Summer of X-Men. Today, we are going to be talking about X-Men Apocalypse. But before we dive into that, let's do some introductions. You know me. I'm Kevin Bauer, a.k.a. the Critic's Choice. With me, as always, is my faithful co-host, the People's Champ, Tim Cack.
Just had to turn off the AC, but I'm here.
Hey, me and all the listeners really appreciate everything that you do for this pod, Tim.
Thanks, man. I am sweating it out here, putting it all on the line. We are in a race against time before my room gets hotboxed and I die. I'm going to look like that man that Wolverine saved in the bottom of that well when the nuke went off, just all burnt up and shriveled. That's going to be me.
Oh, my God. I was thinking you were going to be like Senator Kelly in the first X-Men movie where he just gets so liquefied that he melts into a jellyfish.
I wish I had that kind of moisture. I've been hydrating all day. I'm going to be a dried out, sweaty mess, I guess. But
if we ever do a Twitch stream, we should just do us in our respective recording locations, just trying to out-endure the other person to see who can bear with getting the sweatiest the longest.
Yes. In August, we need to go live and just see how many hours we can do with no heat in our rooms. Just turn them into, well, you have an office. I'm recording in my room. So I'd have to sleep here at night too. So I would just sweat it out on a Tuesday, just getting all gross, making a little sauna. And then it'd be like, time for bed, time to get under the blankets and curl up. I don't think that would work for me, but we'll figure it out. A hot car, maybe.
Hot car. Oh, hot car pod. That'd be terrible. That's
hot car pod.
It's a variation on when people have a challenge to put their hand on the car the longest. You know what? We're not talking about cars today, though. We're talking about X-Men Apocalypse, or rather, we are doing everything we can to avoid talking about X-Men Apocalypse. Tim, what is your 5-second take on this movie?
I was just thinking about how funny carpool karaoke would be if the AC didn't work. And he's driving around like superstars and just sweating his ass off. Can you imagine?
Oh, God. If they actually had to use a car that one of the members of the crew had, not a writer, not somebody who's making, a decent amount of money. What's the boom mic guy pulling? What's his car like? Probably not nice enough.
$32,000.
That's what I'm saying.
He's taking
we need
the
to be paying people more.
I think so. Let's do it. Well, we all should unionize as workers like the X-Men do. Come together where the sum of our parts is greater than any individual could be, Kevin.
That's your 5-second take?
My 5-second review of X-Men Apocalypse. After Days of Future Past, this feels like a real return to form as far as a real team X-Men movie goes. Once again, the team is coming together to be greater than the sum of their parts against a more powerful foe that's ultimately defeated by just a more powerful X-Men. The intention seems good, but the end result is meh. And I'd argue nothing very exciting happens. Kevin, I'd love to put you on the spot right now, right off the bat.
Please. So
we have in this movie, we have the Quicksilver speed scene, and then we have Magneto killing everyone.
Mm-hmm.
What's the third coolest thing that happens in this movie?
That's a tough one. See, the hard part about this is that it presumes that there are 3 cool things that happen in this movie.
Yes, those 2 things are very cool.
The lone thief that I had in this movie was the moment where you think that they have, let's see, when was this? This was right before Apocalypse blew up the X-Mansion. So they connect with Apocalypse using Cerebro. And you think that they've escaped because Apocalypse is on the other side of the world, but Apocalypse just shows up. That is kind of badass. I don't know that it's good from a storytelling standpoint. I don't know that it's done especially well, but it is the one thing that I didn't remember about this movie that had me on the couch going, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. You don't see that coming.
That is kind of cool. And I really like that Magneto, because they appear and then they take Charles Xavier, and Magneto's the one who grabs his chair, and Xavier's like limp in the chair, and Magneto is like dragging him towards them. And something about it is reminiscent to X2, where he's like just manipulating Charles to kill people. Like there's moments when Magneto cannot bring himself to go against Charles Xavier. And then there's other moments kind of haphazardly throughout the series where he will kill Charles Xavier without a thought. And I don't know, that I thought that was pretty dramatic of him dragging his friend and just basically giving his friend over to the enemy. And I don't really know what changed his mind, but it did. That's old Magneto for you. Starts out, as a good guy who is forced to be a bad guy who does the right thing in the end, I guess, after murdering a bunch of people in between. He's a real character. Kevin, what's your 5-second review of X-Men Apocalypse?
Tim, my 5-second review of X-Men Apocalypse is...
We'll rewind real quick.
We'll rewind to that. My 5-second review. Oh my God, I can't talk. It's been a long day, and I blame part of this on the fact that I had to watch X-Men Apocalypse today. My 5-second review of X-Men Apocalypse is that you can tell a lot about an X-Men movie by watching the first 5 minutes. And the first 5 minutes of this movie sucked.
I don't even remember what the first 5 minutes is. It's just them in Egypt.
That's my point. Yeah, it's just them in Egypt. It's a whole lot of nothing with these different mutants. Apocalypse falls down a chasm for 45 minutes. It's the world's deepest. It's so deep that if he had fallen down this shaftway, he would have just come out the other side of the world. There's no way anything on the planet is this deep for how long he was falling. I wrote down the first 5 minutes of a couple other X-Men movies. The first X-Men movie and First Class both start with Magneto in the Holocaust, both extremely affecting scenes. X-Men 2 opens with that incredible Nightcrawler White House fight. Wolverine Origins opens on a Civil War era soap opera. That's the first sign that something's gone horribly wrong.
I kind of liked it, but yeah.
I like when they go through the ages, but I don't like the soap opera.
Oh yeah, it does start with like, I was your dad the whole time.
Yeah,
that's
we
weird.
get a dad reveal in the first 5 minutes. It's no good.
Kevin, if there's one thing I've learned through cinema, it's that the modern day Egyptian people, if they find something in the ground, they'll worship the shit out of it. It doesn't seem to matter what it is, where it came from. They don't need to know anything about it, but they are there and they're clapping and they're moaning and they're having a great time. I gotta believe that this is just some weird stereotype that movies have just invented, where they're just like, Egyptians, there's pyramids there. They're probably like worshiping these pyramids constantly. I've seen no evidence in real life that that's true. Egyptian listeners, please come correct me on this if I'm wrong. Hopefully you can worship our podcast like that someday. But I did catch myself being like, who are these people? They're just random. They're randos who are just worshiping Apocalypse now for some reason. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, there's a lot of lazy cultural shit in this movie, that very much being one of them. The other one that really sat wrong with me is, like I just mentioned, they've done scenes with Magneto and the Holocaust that are really well done and like moving and kind of like shockingly well pulled off for being extremely heavy fare in a comic book movie. The scene with Magneto going back to a concentration camp in this movie is not one of those scenes. This is something about it just felt wrong. Something just felt very offensive about the way that they were touching on that. Like, this movie does not have enough dignity to be allowed to touch on something that heavy.
It's Olivia Munn's got to feel weird in that Psylocke costume, just hanging out at Auschwitz. Like, that's crazy.
Dude, Psylocke in that costume at Auschwitz is...
Oscar Isaac is wearing purple makeup, blue makeup, and he's just hanging out there.
Looking motherfucker. I mean, wow. This has to be... nobody had a problem with this when they were making it. Nobody's standing around in that room. Was it like a green screen and they didn't know that they were going to put a concentration camp behind them? Because if they didn't, like, how do you go to work that day?
Because he does the thing at Auschwitz, and then the end of the movie is in Egypt, right? They're at the pyramids.
Yeah.
So somehow he pulls all the metal out of the ground in Auschwitz, and then that's not even relevant for the story because he's going to be in Egypt the rest of the time. Okay, I did want to ask you about this because this seems to be a part of Apocalypse's upgrade. You know, Apocalypse is like, I can make you better. I'll power you up. And he's got Storm. Did he make Storm that much stronger? I don't know. Maybe. We saw a little wind before, so maybe he made her more powerful. Psylocke, what did he do for Psylocke? Now she has 2 beams that she can point out of her hands. It seems a little dumb. Angel looks awesome. It's badass. That's the one Horseman that makes sense. And it's the only one that's really like good in the comics is that. And then Magneto, he doesn't power up Magneto. He takes him to this childhood trauma and has him dig into the earth and realize that he's more powerful, you know, than he ever imagined. But I think this is kind of a reoccurring theme for Magneto. He's more powerful than ever imagined. And then, you know, the next movie we watch, he's going to struggle to rip a subway out of the ground. So it just kind of fluctuates. I guess he has the power to destroy the earth when he's in the mood, but then he can't beat Apocalypse. So it's weird. The whole thing's weird. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't love this. I don't love this thing. I'm not crazy about it, Kevin. It's not
this
my
is pretty awful. This is, as you say, one of the bad ones.
Do you think Apocalypse helped any of these people out?
Storm's hair is cooler now.
That's true.
So that's an upgrade that who knows if she would have made on her own. You know, that's a pretty bold swing, but it really worked out for her. I don't think he helped Magneto. I think he pissed Magneto off. And it seems like his powers are really tied to his emotional state. I mean, this stuff with he and his family in this movie, very hard to watch. It really, truly did suck to watch him finally in a state of happiness and then have that, as all things must be, ripped away from him. But I don't know that Apocalypse helped him at all. He just kind of pushed him to that edge where his powers get more volatile. Archangel, I want to talk about that because you said that Archangel looked cool. And I disagree. I think he looks dumb. I think just replacing somebody's wings with metal is dumb. I think it's a dumb upgrade. Everybody else has like you mentioned with Storm. She could do little wind things before, and then afterwards, she's no mega level mutant. She can control all weather. I forget who. Oh yeah, Psylocke. Okay, yeah.
She gets 2 pointy things.
Yeah, she's got. I mean, that's 100% increase in the number of pointy things she has, but still very dumb. I want to see Apocalypse makes sense as somebody who could unlock that second level of mutation in somebody. The way in the comics, they started introducing this thing where some people started having secondary mutations, which explains how Emma Frost is both a telepath, but can turn her skin into diamond and all that. He makes sense as a logical source of that. Also kind of feels like maybe they were playing this idea of like the show My Hero Academia, where he kind of has that all for one ability to bestow or steal other people's powers. So maybe you explain it that way. But to just coat somebody's wings in metal, it just feels like there could be something cooler. What if he could turn into a big ass bird or what do you upgrade with him? Give him like a I don't know, a halo and the ability to throw beams of light at people. We can do something better than just your wings are metal now.
I think Angel is in general just one of the most useless X-Men.
No question.
He's probably aged the worst out of all of them. You know, Cyclops, not great. That he has this. He can't look anyone in the eyes, and all he gets to do is shoot a laser beam. Like, there's a lot of Avengers that can shoot laser beams. You know, there's a lot more X-Men that shoot like beams of some kind, I guess. So that's a bummer, but this guy just has wings, and there's plenty of people in the Marvel universe that can fly without wings. He's pretty useless. There's no offense. There's no nothing. I remember in Heroes, if you ever remember that show, one of the guys could fly on it and someone's like, why aren't you a superhero? And he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do when I get there?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know how am I supposed to help at all? And I think about that with Angel all the time. He's got these wings that apparently can get burned off pretty easily in a little electric cage match, but he did lose something and it was taken from him. And in some way, Apocalypse gave it back in a way that I don't think he does for the other three characters. So in that sense, it made sense for me. I also like the fact I feel like they're doing the best they can with Angel. I think it's interesting to make him a bad guy. And he's obviously more dangerous as Archangel, where he can throw knives and cut into stuff. That's kind of neat. So I don't know. They backed a bad horse, but at least it limped across the finish line. My biggest beef, though, is not Angel. Well, it is Angel. Biggest beef in this is that there's cage fighting. Angel is a master cage fighter. He's kicking all kinds of ass. And before Nightcrawler shows up, he defeats the Blob. There is no world. And I was Googling this after where I'm on Reddit, everyone's asking the same question. There's no world where especially non-Archangel, regular old guy with wings defeats the Blob. It's not possible. It's not happening. It's not realistic. I don't know how they expect us to believe that. It's dumb. Angel versus Nightcrawler is kind of an interesting battle because they're both kind of useless in a similar way.
Yeah.
And so they're on a similar level, I think. But yeah, him beating the Blob is kind of a weirdly unforgivable Marvel beef of mine.
It's really bizarre. I'm trying to think now. Maybe if we suspend our disbelief to the extent of our ability, maybe we say that it's just the guy they cast isn't believable as somebody that could be like a master cage fighter. If there was somebody else, like if you gave Mike Tyson giant angel wings, do you think he could take down the Blob? It'd be interesting at the very least. Just giant angel wings on Mike Tyson. Think about even somebody like a little bit smaller but more aggro, like Conor McGregor. He's he get wings. He's up in your face.
I guess it would be cool. They're also in a cage that's electrocuted, and I guess they can't escape it. Nightcrawler can't teleport out of it for some reason. I think there's maybe a scenario where they're outside and they're on top of a building and Angel knocks them off or into something. Maybe there's something like that. But it looks like they're just going fist to fist, and that's not crazy. I don't even think that's the character. It's just he's just kind of a dud. I do think they could have leaned more into these characters losing a thing and Apocalypse promising to give it back. He's kind of promising Magneto revenge, I guess. But Apocalypse and Storm, Psylocke and Storm are just there because, you know. It's weird. It's just a
Psylocke
weird
also
thing.
She gets this weird villain treatment at the end when everybody's leaving the scene of the battle and they show her just kind of lurk in the shadows and then walk away as though maybe she's going to be the big bad of the next X-Men movie. No, we're never going to see her again. We barely saw her in this one.
It is more of the silent Asian woman stereotype, which is just kind of uninteresting. But Psylocke doesn't talk in this. It seems like kind of a bummer if you're Olivia Munn and signing up to do a thing. You survive. You could be brought back in a sequel, and then you're just not. And there's really just nothing there for your character to do. It's a little bit disappointing. Yeah. I don't necessarily find any of the fighting in this cool either. I mean, we're kind of recording this back to back with Dark Phoenix. I'd argue there's some cool fighting in Dark Phoenix. Yeah. Apocalypse, nothing really comes to mind. Beast, this is a running theme on this pod for me. Beast looks so stupid all the time. There's no scenario where Beast doesn't look dumb. When he fights, it's stupid. He jumps funny. That's his thing. He looks like a Muppet. There's nothing cool about Beast. And then when he's not the Beast, he's Nicholas Hoult. And there's nothing cool about Nicholas Hoult. It's just, I don't love it. I don't love that at all.
It's the Harkonnen drop soldier effect that we talked about in Dune too. They should not have done practical effects for this because it looks silly as hell. It looks so silly. In Days of Future Past, there's the scene where Beast first attacks Wolverine when he comes into the mansion, and they use the practical effects to have him like gallop down the hallway at him, but they also clearly had him start right at the edge. He's coming around a hallway. They clearly had him start right at the edge of the hallway instead of giving him like a little bit of leeway to lead up and build into it. And so you basically see his first gallop, and it's so slow and gentle and controlled by wires. It's like the one instance where I'm like, just make it CGI. Just make me believe that he could fuck somebody up.
Yeah. I agree. I do also on the Magneto scenario where he's off and he's living his life. I think it's very cool. It seems like he's doing well. He probably owns. I don't think he rents. So he's doing okay.
He's doing great.
Got a wife, got a daughter. The daughter's power is to control animals, or at least to speak to animals, which is pretty neat. And it made me think that there's probably a more natural. It made Magneto's powers seem more natural than what I normally think of them as. And I guess maybe there's no logic to support this at all. I'm wondering what you think of, like, when I think Magneto, I think modern, I think steel, I think the future. But then his daughter can speak to animals in nature, and then he ends up ripping this metal out of the ground, out of the earth. It seems like there's kind of this theme in this one of him being more like an earthbender as opposed to like a I don't know, like a techno wizard guy or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I see that. I understand it seems more tied to the Industrial Revolution. But Tim, if you remember right, the Iron Age was from 1200 BC to 550 BC, immediately following the Bronze Age. We're talking about a time period marked by the widespread use of iron and steel. So it is something that humanity has been turning to since before the birth of our Savior, Lord Jesus Christ.
Thank you. Praise be his name. Kevin.
Tim, Jesus Christ. Mutant?
The first mutant, I think. I did love that they were like, oh, he's the Four Horsemen. He got that from the Bible, or maybe the Bible got it from him. Incredible. Incredible stuff. We need that more in all of our movies. I do also want to commemorate or like give flowers to the archer in the group of angry villagers who somehow got two humans for the price of one. He somehow shot the daughter and the mom in a way where it went through both of their hearts at the same time. Incredible bad luck for them, or maybe incredible skill for that guy.
Yeah, that was Hawkeye.
Yeah,
non-canon. That was Hawkeye.
Cut down in his prime.
It is kind of fascinating. They've done a lot of that stuff with historical revisionism in this, where like in Days of Future Past, they suggest that Magneto killed JFK.
Yeah.
Always fun. Always very fun.
Well, then he was like, I'm trying to save him.
Because he was a mutant.
Yes, that's great revision. I love anytime comics like mess with history like that. I think it's so fun. It's a good time. The school. Should we talk about the school explosion?
Let's talk about the school explosion.
It's incredibly cool. That's got to be one of your thieves, right?
Yeah. It's the Quicksilver scene. I'm a little bummed that they pretty much copied the Quicksilver scene exactly. I mean, I guess the variation on this one is that you see Quicksilver moving extremely quick, whereas in the first movie, he's moving pretty much normal speed around all the stuff that's super slow-mo. But the stuff they're doing is really fun. The dog stuff, the like throwing the mattress and the blankets out the window, the kid who's going in for a kiss at the top of the building, and you could see that girl's horrified face. That kind of stuff is so cool. It just sucks that all of the things surrounding that explosion happening suck. I remember looking this up on YouTube and being really excited to watch this scene again. And then I remembered at the end of it, when it cuts to Nicholas Hoult going, oh, Alex was closest to the explosion. It's like I just flashed back to all the other parts of this movie and it disappointed me.
What do you mean?
Just because I don't like really any of this movie outside of probably this scene and maybe just that scene. There is one other moment I like when Professor X meets up with Moira again, but Moira has no memory of him. And he's asking about her husband. And he's like, and do you have a husband? And she's like, oh, he's not in the picture anymore. And Professor X just goes, good. That's maybe the only other moment of this movie I like.
Dude, Professor X is kind of funny. When he chooses to be James McAvoy, crushes it. I love the scene with Cyclops where he's like, show me what you can do. Do not be afraid. And then he takes off his blindfold and just obliterates a tree and then puts his thing back on. And just Professor X just starts talking. My grandfather planted that tree when he was 5 years old. I remember swinging from the branches as the whole thing just like collapses and rips apart. Like that to me feels like the kind of humor they should be doing a lot more of.
Yeah.
Is just kind of like, yeah, what is that? How do you even describe that? I was thinking it's kind of like dry and British a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. It's lighthearted in a way that we don't get to experience a lot in the X-Men movies. And I think anytime it comes along, people love it because so much of it is so like grimdark. And I mean, in the early ones, they're actually dealing with heavy subtext, so it makes sense. In the later ones, they seem to just be grim for the sake of making a serious superhero movie. But we'll save more of that for Phoenix. What did you think the Quicksilver house exploding scene?
I love it. They should be doing this in every movie now. You know, this is a major flaw in Dark Phoenix is they don't do it. And it seems crazy. You're right. It is kind of the same thing, but it's an easy formula that we all want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see everything stop. I want a music video, Quicksilver moving stuff out of the way. It seems cool. I'm sure there's other ways you could do it. You know, pick a random song and then a location and you've pretty much got it. You know, the Bee Gees Staying Alive, and it's going to be in the Space Needle. Let's do that. Let's have him evacuate an entire skyscraper to Staying Alive.
Oh my God.
We've got it. I'd watch it.
Around the World by Daft Punk, and he's literally running to different locations around the planet while doing a lap around the world.
That'd be great.
There's croissant in Paris. He gets a little bit of pasta in Italy.
There's 5 bombs hidden around the planet and in each major city, and there's a 10-second countdown to defeat them all. Yeah, and he's just going around diffusing all of like
that's all
that
I
could
need.
be there. You've already broken just the reality of this world by introducing this character. He cannot exist in this story, or else every single thing would be, well, Quicksilver could have fixed it. And so they intentionally write him off in a way that's very frustrating in kind of all these movies. Well, he twisted his ankle. Well, he's stuck now. Well, he got knocked over somehow. You know, like they come up with a dumb reason to eliminate him. But if you're going to have him in this, give us the thing we want. And they do in this one. They don't in future ones. And it's a bummer. I think he's a fun OP character.
Big time. Stuck Now is definitely the funniest of those. Oh, I'd love to help out in this fight, but I'm stuck.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that thing. It's maybe one of the biggest things. They don't show him having that like famous Flash superpower where he can kind of vibrate his way out of something. He's not that overpowered. So you get stuck.
I think in Marvel and DC, they've got different approaches to this, right? Like the Flash taps into the Speed Force, which is kind of magic, or like the Phoenix energy. So he just taps into this thing and is connected with it and then is just moving at a speed that can get him to travel through time. Whereas I think Quicksilver's bit is that he is physically that fast. There's no tapping into anything. He's just like incredibly fast. So he's like proportionally stronger to deal with all of that stuff. And I think that makes him a more interesting character. But in the comics, I mean, he could never do something like this. They obviously pumped it to the extreme to make it fun. And it's great. Why not? I wish there was more fun in these movies, Kevin.
I know,
because the X-Men
man.
are fun. They do some sad, depressing shit, and then they all go play baseball together and talk trash. You know,
Yeah.
like there is a lightheartedness to and a goofiness to the X-Men that I wish we got to see more of in this movie in particular.
Damn, I would kill to see just one of the X-Men baseball games on film. I really hope that that's something. I was thinking about how we want to see a long period of time progressing with these characters. We want to feel like we have a lot of history with these characters and we have a good cohesive idea of what they do. And I don't know that any superhero movie has done as good of a job expressing time passing like that and giving us like this storied history with all these characters, as well as like the Shawshank Redemption. But then I was reading about it in the Shawshank Redemption. I didn't realize that watching it, but then in hindsight, it's super obvious. It's basically broken down into like 9 smaller vignettes that all piece together and take place in the same prison. And then, you know, go from there. So I would love to see one of the relaunches in the MCU, whether it's Fantastic Four, whether it's the X-Men movie a couple years later, take a similar approach. Imagine if we got a movie where over the course of it, we got to see them basically do like 8 mini missions that added up to one big story arc.
I love this. I mean, I've thought about this a lot where I like just start the movie in the middle of a mission, have them just defeating the Juggernaut and then go from there, you know, like, or why does it have to be Apocalypse? Why can't we see them stopping bank robbers?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like really just like down to earth stuff, you know, some mutants are holding people hostage in a building. Let's see what they do. How do they get out of that? How do they work as a team to overcome this obstacle? And then move on to something else like that. That gives them a chance to goof off. They're like in their elements. We get to see how well they work together. We get to see them do the thing. And that's, you know, an unsatisfying thing about these movies is that like somehow I want more and but they're not giving me the thing I want somehow.
Yeah.
I did want to get this in before the end of the pod is the Quicksilver Magneto connection.
Oh yeah.
Is funny because he's just like, yeah, my mom hooked up with a guy who could control metal. And like the timeline doesn't really track because she's been in America and he's just been in Europe pretty much. Like he would have had to come to Europe. Like she must have been backpacking or something. Like there maybe, you know, like there's some kind of complicated story here. And so he's like, I'm going to go tell Magneto I'm his son, and he can't do it. And Mystique kind of like looks at Magneto, and he's not taking the opportunity. So she's just like, you've got more family than you know. And then at the end, it's like, okay, we're just keeping this under wraps, I guess. These are like his best friend. I mean, Mystique is like, aside from Professor X, probably his most intimate connection. Mm-hmm. And she is not going to tell him this secret. And then at the end of the movie, Storm just walks up to Quicksilver and goes, Mystique told me Magneto's your father. Are you going to tell him? And it's like, what the fuck, Mystique? Just tell everybody then. Why'd you tell Storm? Like, just make an announcement, you know, mass text everybody. Like what? Mystique is either the worst secret keeper, or I bet that's it. They're just like, well, we'll just all as a group keep this from Magneto. It's so dumb. And I don't think they address it at all in Dark Phoenix. This is just an unresolved thread.
Yeah. Yeah. They just skirt right away from it. How many secrets do you think Professor X has wiped from each other's minds? Like he just calls her into the office and is like, God damn it, Raven, I can't keep having you do this.
I was just picturing like, you know, every time Professor X messes up, he just like erases their minds.
Yeah.
You know, like that Rick and Morty bit where he's just like,
he spills a little bit of coffee on himself. Gone.
Yeah. They laugh and he's just like mind wiped. He's like, we'll all forget this happened. And just immediately. And so then they're all just like, wow, Professor X, pretty cool guy. What if that was his whole thing, was just like, I'm not going to manipulate anybody. You know, I'm not going to take over their minds, but I am going to make them think I'm a pretty cool dude.
Oh my God, that's just funny.
Just a hint in the back of their minds, like, dang, Professor's really rocking that shirt. You know, he's a cool dude.
That'd be such a funny bit in like an X-Men comedy if you jumped in, if like Jean checked somebody's memory of an event that Professor X was involved in, and they jump into the memory and he's wearing a leather jacket and shades. And he's got this beautiful head of hair.
He could just convince everyone he has hair too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why not just get everybody to think you have awesome hair? Yeah, he's rad.
Damn.
Any other final thoughts on this, Kev?
I made a reference to this earlier, but Apocalypse looks just like Ivan Ooze. Just like him.
Yes. Yeah, he does. Ivan Ooze was better. That's a much better movie.
Way better. I feel so bad for Oscar Isaac. He's better than what they gave him. A lot of people are better than what they were given in this movie, I think. Yeah. But listener, what do you think? Are we wrong? Are we super right? Spoiler alert, we're super fucking right. Let us know. Send us an email, nerdy430@gmail.com. We'll read it on the show. We'll be back here again next week with Dark Phoenix.
Yes.
Till then, thanks for listening. Stay nerdy, everybody.
Stay nerdy, everybody. Bye. Justice for Havoc.
Justice for Havoc, dude. He was kind of cool. I like the actor they have playing Havoc in this. I didn't like him First Class. Havoc. I liked him in this.
He's like the only recurring. It feels like he's the only recurring character in all these movies.
Right?
He's definitely not. But it is great to see him again.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's so, I mean, the hula hoop thing sucked. They did him so dirty with the hula hoop thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, I like the actor. I wish she could have a better shot.
I do like in these movies that Professor Xavier will like let different X-Men push his wheelchair.
Yeah.
And so like when he's got Havoc pushing his wheelchair and accompanying him, it's cool. You know, in the originals, it was Cyclops. And then, you know, in the next one, it's like the younger guys. And it just seems like he's always got like a couple X-Men with him. And it's a fun rotating cast.
Yeah.
For the fantasy in me. But yeah, it's cool. Anyway, stay nerdy. Bye.